Hi, I'm Cailey, a librarian here at Mentor Public Library.
And I'm Meg, also a librarian, and welcome to this week's edition of All Booked Up with Cailey and Meg, where each week we give you different book recommendations on a specific theme. So we're in April now, so we're gonna do rainy day reads today, and that's when those April showers come in, and you just have nothing to do outside. We're gonna give you some books that maybe you would want to read, when it's raining outside.
Absolutely. Something that you can like curl up on the couch with and listen to that rain against the windows, one of those kind of days. And all the books that we talk about today are going to be available for you here at the library as well as online, free with your library card through Libby by Overdrive as well as on Hoopla. All right, Meg, what is that first book you're going to curl up with on a rainy day?
Yes, that first book I'm going to pick is called Dogeared Poems About Humanity's Best Friend, edited by Duncan Wu. And Duncan is a literary scholar who has mined the wealth of poetry about our furry friends to show how varied and intimate our relationships have been with them over the centuries. So it starts with Homer, which is I believe 750 BC,
Yeah,
and
that was
goes
a minute
all
ago.
that was a while ago, all the way up to the 1960s, and really just a lot of big name authors that like Shakespeare, Thomas Hardy, Gwendolyn Brooks. So just poets, authors galore, and just what they said about dogs. And it's really interesting to look at it because sometimes it's humorous, sometimes it'll make you cry because it's really sad. And then sometimes it brings to light historical facts that you didn't know, like how in the 19th century, some of the cruel practices they did to dogs, the really
Oh.
horrible things, and bringing that to light. So it's kind of educational, but also just very heartwarming to see it really has been that long, all the way back to Homer, because the Homer section's really moving. There's the main character, Ulysses, trains this little dog, Argus, as a puppy, and then he goes off for years and doesn't see him for years. And when he returns, the dog is neglected, the people didn't take care of him good. But right before the dog dies, they have this bonding moment that's really touching. And I'm wow, that was so long ago. But even back then, it was just our connection with dogs, man's best friend. So it's just really fun to read all the different eras all in one sitting, and it's nice because you don't have to, you jump in and out at certain parts. You don't have to read it straight through. So it's a really, I don't know, contemplative book and just relaxing for me to read.
Absolutely. And nice plug there. Poetry. April is National Poetry Month.
I didn't even knowingly do that. Yes, poetry month too.
But that's great. I think poetry is a good thing to kind of jump into. And like you said, being a contemplative kind of read, that's a good thing on a nice rainy day.
What about you? What's yours?
So my first one is a book came out 5 or 6 years ago, I think, called The Little Paris Bookshop by Nina George. And first off, Paris and bookshops, how could I not pick this up? Although I will say, it
Great.
took a while. I heard good things about it from a lot of people before I actually did read this one. And as soon as I did, I was like, oh my gosh, why did I wait so long?
Great.
So this book is about Jean Perdu, who considers himself a literary apothecary. He prescribes books to help people with their needs at any given moment. So he has a stunning accuracy of picking the right book for the right person at the right time. Of course, that's not always the book they want. It's a little complicated,
Great.
especially because he is a bookseller. He is the owner operator of a floating bookshop on the River Seine called the Literary Apothecary. And, someone might walk in and try to buy a particular book, and he may turn them away because it's not the right book for them.
Okay.
So it's a little complex. But
Yeah.
Perdue also lives in this tenement building that is filled with colorful characters. And a new woman who is heartbroken joins that cast of colorful characters amongst
Okay.
his neighbors. Her name is Catherine, and she starts a chain of events that changes Perdue's life. 20 years earlier, Perdue's love, Manon, she left him with no notice and left behind a letter that he has never been able to bring himself to read. And of course, over the course of this book, that letter is now shared. And once that happens, it changes everything for him. And he sets off in his floating bookshop down the river with 2 cats and a novelist. And he is determined to face his past. And along the way, he picks up more stray people, basically, and also continues to prescribe books to anyone who he encounters. This is really like a great rainy day read because it's like part love story, part tragedy. It's like filled with emotions, and it's not just like one story, it's also the stories of all the different people he encounters, and even little snippets of like him sensing what people need, and you kind of get a feel for how books really do change and impact you. And we're book people, so this is one of those books that like it has so many great quotes about the power of books that you have to love it just for that. But it takes you on a journey, both like emotional and obviously you're in Paris going down the river. So I think that's something that I would love to like curl up with and dive into on a day where I'm stuck at home.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I was going to say the setting seems nice, just the whole theme, like you said, the love and all that sounds really good. And I want to start calling ourselves literary apothecaries, because that's what we're doing, right? No, but that sounds so good. I love that one. My next one also kind of has books. So I guess we both had a little bookish vibe here. It's The Midnight Library. I know, right? Seriously. The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. And so this has been one that's been, popular since I think it came out last fall around then.
It is still on the holds list, let me tell you.
Yes. So yeah, put yourself on hold for this one. But it's a mixture between fantasy, science fiction, and I was even getting like It's a Wonderful Life kind of vibes, like, like alternate reality type of thing. That just, I don't know, is real feel good. So our protagonist is Nora Seed, and after some breakups and career failures, she kind of feels kind of down about her life and where the direction that it's headed. Well, she comes across the Midnight Library, which is not a normal library to say the least. The shelves in this library go on for infinity, and the books in them don't have your typical, little fictional stories. They're actually the stories of your life and all the different alternate like lives you would have lived had you made different decisions at each point in life. So say you'd said yes instead of no, your whole book would be different. So there's a book for each one of those. So Nora has a chance to go through all these books and see all these different careers she could have had and things she could have done. And while she goes through that, it really challenges her to think about what is really important for her in life. Because, when you make one decision, something's kind of rejected in a way. So you have to, choose what is more important. So seeing all of these books and going on this kind of like magical journey in a way, just really opens her eyes, especially because she's been so down about the one life she's known so far. So I like it for that reason, just, to really make you think about what's important in life and just books. Where can you go?
No, I have seen that book on the holds list a whole bunch, but I did not really know what it was about. So, I think that's an interesting idea to sort of analyze the way that your life could have gone. Like you said, you say yes, and you're really passing up whatever opportunity no was. So that's interesting. All right, so my next one, I'm going to say is kind of a cop-out, if only because it's not something I've read recently, but I've read many times. So every few years, usually on like a rainy day where they really have nothing else to do, or, nothing else I want to do,
Right.
I will feel the need to revisit an old favorite.
Right.
Particularly Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen.
That's awesome. I love it.
So,
I'm guilty of that too.
Now, I know that it's not everyone's cup of tea, British humor.
Right.
But for me, it's a pleasure to sort of jump back into a book that is familiar and kind of it's comforting. You curl up with a cup of tea, perhaps a scone, and you just kind of dive back into the world of the Bennets. And while I would love to assume that everyone knows the tale, I'm going to do the brief summary kind of thing here.
Yeah.
This book is, a classic for a reason, and it has inspired so many different retellings. And I think we've highlighted at least one of them on here, if not more. But the classic is a classic for a reason. So the Bennet family have 5 daughters, which is quite the concern in 18th century England because the property can only pass to a male heir. So the family is determined to have their daughters well matched. And when a wealthy bachelor moves nearby, the Bennets are hoping that he will find one of their daughters to be, just so charming that he will have to marry her. And thus, ensure security not just for that daughter, but hopefully the whole family. Especially because, it doesn't hurt that he's got money. So at an early party with Mr. Bingley, that wealthy bachelor, he is becoming closer and closer to the oldest Bennet daughter, Jane. And his best friend, Mr. Darcy, says a not too kind comment about the second eldest daughter, our main character, Elizabeth. And Elizabeth overhears this and she has made her decisions about the character of that Mr. Darcy, and he has obviously made his about her. But the two keep being thrown together throughout the course of the book and have to come face to face with, the consequences of snap decisions. So obviously there's a lot more to the book than that, but just a snippet. I like that this is a classic novel of misunderstandings and snap judgments and how appearances are not always everything. There's much more beneath the surface, and I can't help but picture this as being something that you can always come back to and enjoy that most ardent love that Mr. Darcy has for Elizabeth at the end of this tale.
I know that it really is a great one to reread, especially like you said, as more and more adaptations come back. Like if you watch those, then when you go back and read Austen's, it kind of changes how you read it. Like, like there's been the one about Mary Bennet, that book, it's not coming on in my mind right now, but the one about Mary Bennet. So then you read Pride and Prejudice and then you focus maybe a little bit more on Mary Bennet, which maybe you wouldn't have done before. So,
and I can't even tell you how many times I have read it, but I feel like every time there's something new that I pick up on. And I think that's largely based on all of the different things that have come out that are inspired by or are retellings of, and you just kind of notice more details every time.
Yeah, reread it, and if you haven't read it, definitely read it.
Absolutely.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us for this week's edition. If you find it's raining one day and you need something to read, cuddle up with one of these books and enjoy.
Yes, happy reading.